Drivers who often drive at night know that the three taboos must not be violated. Otherwise they will encounter unexpected strange things. The first night after running a long distance and sleeping must not get out of the car. Even if you want to and pee, you must hold it until dawn. And the second time you must whistle when you encounter the mouth of the tunnel, the original horn once, and the square horn 3 times. When it came to the third, Master Lu spit out a smoke ring and looked at me sleepily. This third. No matter who you meet on the road asking for help, don't pull it. You can't even think about it. At first I didn't believe what he said. But when I posted the 3 dog-headed emoji, it was only then that I was able to save my dog's life. And the strange thing that happened later, I was introduced by a friend of my father's. Follow a master in the county who runs long distances all year round to be a car presser. The master's nickname is Lu Laogue. 40 years of long-distance experience. Many young people don't know much about the truck driver's profession. In the 80s, it was a very popular job. Master Lu likes me very much, and promised that this trip would give me 3,000 yuan for hard work. That's a lot of money at the time. After loading in Zhengzhou, Master Lu and I just had a ride and didn't have a ride, and we headed in the direction of Xinjiang. There weren't as many highways as there are now. For most of the distance, we still use national highways. If nothing happens, this trip to Xinjiang will take more than 20 days. The Kuan, how old is this year to get married? Master Lu asked me while driving. 23 years old has no object. Hearing me say this, Master Lu turned his head and glanced at me. It embarrasses me a little, because at that time, at the age of 23, he was not married. He's already considered an older man. This is undoubtedly also related to the fact that my family is relatively poor. Not a big problem. You can rest assured to follow my sports car. Run for a year, and I'll guarantee that you will be able to get a daughter-in-law next year. Hear him say that. It made me, who was originally sad, instantly lift my spirits. However, Master Lu did not experiment. In just 3 months, he did let me get my daughter-in-law, and also over-owned a van of its own. It's just that the price is too great. After 2.5 hours, it was getting dark. We decided to go to the next county seat to rest. There was no navigation at that time, but every driver is a living map. Master Lu looked at me, who was bored, and smiled mysteriously. Kuan, it's an hour before you get to the county seat. Have you ever tasted a woman? Not yet. Master Lu is the only person I met on the way to my truck that was kind to me. But after Master Lu said this, what happened after that gradually turned out to be wrong. As it grew dark outside, it took more than 3 hours to drive. Still did not arrive at the scene that Master Lu said. There are fewer pedestrians and vehicles on the road. In the end, there was not a single living creature on the road before and after. It was as if everything was gone in an instant. We were the only ones in the car. At first, I could still see Master Lu's steady face. Later, the steadiness gradually became confused, and then to the back turned into a shock. A slight panic followed. Even the air around them fell silent. It was as if something was staring at us outside the car window all the time. I don't know how long it took me to see the snow slowly starting to fall outside the window, so I was ready to tell her. Master Lu, I feel outside the window. I'm not done yet. Shut up. Knock the window up. I was taken aback by Master Lu's abrupt voice, then hurriedly closed the window. At this time, I could feel Master Lu's nervousness, and the way she kept looking in the rearview mirror. It also made me nervous inexplicably. In a trance, I saw an old woman in gray in front of me. I want the master to give her a meal. Master Lu has someone. Master Lu directly stretched out his left hand and slapped me. Where is someone? There's a fart guy. That's a fork. Give Lao Tzu a good seat. I was stunned by Master Lu's slap. I couldn't say anything for a while, but then I saw a strange scene. Right in front of our vehicle. Suddenly, an unlicensed black Santana that could no longer be broken appeared. And oddly enough, this Santana is always on the move though, but its headlights weren't on. If it weren't for our headlights, it's hard to spot such a car on the road. Strange though, but Master Lu and I were in a slightly more comfortable mood. After all, there is no more lifelessness just now. Master Lu took out a cigarette and lit it. This is often followed by a breath of air. Kuan, just now, the ghost hit the wall. Remember that all the people you meet at night aren't necessarily people. Is that old woman a ghost? Master Lu turned his head and looked at me meaningfully, but there was no positive answer. Kuan, don't you notice that the old woman's feet are empty? I gasped when I heard this. Seeing my cowardice, Master Lu laughed. Come on, we're out. There will be nothing to do later. Then Master Lu began to flash Santana in front of him with lights non-stop. Who is this? If you don't turn on the lights in the middle of the night, forget it. It's so slow. But after flashing for a long time, Santana didn't give way. Master Lu gradually became irritable. Start honking the horn non-stop. On the dark road, the horns of the trucks are constantly sounding. It shook my ears and made my ears hurt. But the car in front still showed no signs of giving way. This behavior immediately angered Master Lu. He turned to the left. I turned on the high beams and wanted to shine a picture of the people who were driving. However, after this operation, I saw with my own eyes that Master Lu's irritable expression suddenly froze. Then his pupils widened in shock. He didn't even notice the cigarette in his mouth falling on his pants. I kindly reminded him by pointing to the cigarette butt. However, at this time, Master Lu didn't care about cigarette butts at all. Directly grasping the steering wheel, he braked the car to a stop. This made me crash directly into the table without warning. At this time, Master Lu gasped heavily. One hand grips the steering wheel tightly. His eyes were staring at Santa in front of him, until he disappeared into the bloodstream. Smash Master Lu. I clutched my head and cried bitterly. Only then did Master Lu turn his head. He looked at me with red eyes. There was no one on the main driver of that dog day. I froze momentarily when I heard the news. How could there be no one? The car was moving. Master Lu did not answer my questions. Just kept smoking. The blood outside the carriage was getting bigger and bigger. The whole world was a little eerily silent. In order to suppress the fear in my heart, I nervously took a cigarette from him and put it in my mouth. Master Lu looked at me and didn't say anything. And it was my first time smoking. After taking a deep breath, a feeling of dizziness came, but it alleviated my fears. Master Lu, was that a ghost car just now? Shut up. He glared at me and stared ahead, not saying a word. I didn't know until later. What we encountered that night was a ghost car. And those who met ghost cars in those years, no one was immune. Even if he wasn't dead at the time, it will also be at some later time. Die tragically for various reasons. Sometimes I just think, isn't it too unlucky? A ghost car that no one else can encounter in their lifetime. I encountered it when I first entered this industry. 5 minutes later, Master Lu came to his senses. It's okay to coo in. We stopped for 2 hours and then left. When he's far away, we will continue our journey. I nodded sloppily, and that's all I have to do now. But I don't know why. I always feel like I'm vomiting all the time. During this period, Master Lu and I didn't say a word in the carriage. Just like that, they smoked silently. Perhaps Master Lu also encountered this for the first time. When there are only 2 cigarettes left, he beckoned the vehicle to set off again. The roar of the engine at this point is a beautiful song for me. And so we drove slowly for half an hour. I didn't see the Santa again. We breathed a sigh of relief. Master Lu's mood was also a little better at this time. He patted me on the shoulder and tried to adjust the mood. Don't be afraid. Even if there is dirty stuff with you, a child, you can sweep away all ghosts. I turned my head and tried to reply. Suddenly, I saw a car shadow out of my eye, slowly emerging from the shadows of our headlights. I felt like my heart was beating to a halt, and Master Lu's expression that had just eased up stiffened again, just stunned to look at this Santa without a license. No one spoke. Only the amulet that the driver's body wears is missing. It's shaking and shaking. Master Lu, what should we do now? At this time, I have long since lost my master, and to hear my inquiry, Master Lu also had a touch of ruthlessness on his face. Fuck, what a panic. Go put me in the back of my seat. Take out the object wrapped in red cloth. Hear what he says. I found the backbone. Hurriedly turned sideways to Master Lu's seat. Rummage in the back. This clutter is not ordinary. Large caliber mineral water. The black silk sleeve is a mess. It took 2 minutes, only to find the object, he said. It's not big and soft to the touch. I'm curious to open it and take a look. Was stopped by Master Lu. Kuin, what are you sending a belt? Hurry up and put the red cloth on the bridge. I don't know if it's an illusion. The moment I put the red package up, Santana, who was driving in front of her, shook her entire body. Well, there should be no problem. Master Lu breathed a sigh of relief. I asked, confused, is it okay to put this package on? This package is no ordinary item. That's only half the story. But Master Lu seemed to have touched some kind of taboo. He didn't say anything more to me after that. But the reality is just as Master Lu said. The Santana in front of him who had been driving slowly. 2 minutes after the red cloth package was placed, it suddenly increased its speed. It disappeared before our eyes in an instant. It was as if he was afraid of something. Then everything went back to normal. We were unsurprisingly 30 minutes later. I saw the lights on the outskirts of the county. After seeing the bright light, I asked Master Lu excitedly, are we out of this? However, as soon as I turned my head, I saw a strange scene. I saw that Master Lu's nose was slowly flowing out of black liquid. Master Lu, your nose? He didn't seem to feel anything. Just wiped it with your hand and then followed. Wipe it your body. It's okay. I'm on fire. Wait a little while to get to the hotel. Let's relax. But I felt that something was wrong. It's not like I haven't had a nosebleed, but the nose was black and bloody. It's the first time I've seen it. Then he didn't say anything more. Just put the red wrap on the bridge. Hold it tightly in your arms. I always had a strange feeling at this time. It seems that Master Lu is hiding something from me. Just as I was thinking, the car had stopped next to a hotel on the side of the road. In the dim light, directly above the entrance of the inn, the aluminum electricity with black letters on a red background exudes a leisurely glow. The car came to a steady stop. Master Lu said to me while unbuckling his seatbelt, Kuin, there are some things you don't have to think about too much. The past is gone. Walk. Brother will take you to Lihi. He winked at me. I smiled wryly and prepared to open the door. Suddenly, there was a black face lying on my co-pilot's window. Because of the squeezing made a weird smile. This scared me out loud. What are you bluffing? After speaking, Master Lu walked out of the car with the red package in his hand. He smiled at the face of the person in the window on my side. Is there still a room in the fool? At this moment, the face of the person lying on my window opened. Said madly, yes. Ha ha ha, fun and fun. It's going to die again. That's when I saw it clearly. This is a crazy fool. Dressed in tatters. But he was only 17 or 18 years old. Phew. It's getting silly. Undaku. I nodded and followed behind Master Lu. When I entered the hostel, I subconsciously turned my head to look back. I saw it in the dark of night. The fool had a weird smile on his face. Just looked at me motionlessly. It made me feel a kind of pierced coldness in my heart. Follow Master Lu into the hotel. A woman in her 40s was lying on her stomach lifting her shoes. The owner came to 2 rooms. After hearing Master Lu's voice, the woman looked up. After seeing her appearance, I suddenly chuckled in my heart. Because I saw that this woman's eyes were only whites and not blacks. And her lips spit a mesmerizing red. It looked a little strange in the dim light. Lula one. Bringing new people again. The woman's eyes kept rolling. That's when I saw that she actually had black eyes. A small, probably just a needle sword. Every time it turns, it looks particularly abrupt. Oh yes, my apprentice's name is the Kuan. The body is great. Come on, open me 2 rooms and call 2 girls. The moisten. Don't give me a full 30 or 40 years old. After speaking, Master Lu smiled and took out 100 yuan and handed it over. The woman did not answer. With his head down, he dug through 2 keys in a drawer. 4th floor, 404 and 403. There is only one girl's word at the moment. Which of you comes first? Hearing this, I hurriedly spoke. I don't want it. Let Master Lu come first. Ha. Good apprentice. Then I would be truly unfair. I'm not in the mood at all. I'm already exhausted by the strange things on the road. But when she went upstairs, the woman glanced at Master Lu's back. Then he lowered his voice and said to me, don't follow Lu Lao. Hurry up and get out. He's going to die. I was puzzled and shocked to hear this. Just as I opened my mouth to ask why, Master Lu's voice interrupted what I was about to speak. What is Dakuin doing? Hurry upstairs. My mind was a bit of a mess at this point, but eventually I made it up the stairs to the 4th floor. Just as I was still thinking about what the boss lady had just said, Master Lu stopped suddenly. Let me, who was thinking, bump into her. Dakuin. I instantly felt my hairs rise. The cold sweat on his back flowed down inexplicably. No, nothing. Master Lu did not speak. I don't know how long it took to turn my back to me. Then he sighed and handed me a key. He then silently opened the door to 404 and walked in. I don't know if it's my delusion. I seemed to see Master Lu at the moment of entering the door. His shadow seemed to tremble, and so I took the key in my hand. Frightened, he pushed open the door of 403. This is a very ordinary single room. There was a foul smell of decay in the room. Then I lay in bed and couldn't sleep. Actually, I'm a very easy person to sleep. But today, it is extraordinarily spiritual. That's when it happened. I suddenly heard a peculiar voice coming from the next room. It made me even more unable to sleep. I know this is Master Lu starting to exercise. However, at first, I was still curious. But as time went on, until 3 o'clock in the morning. But the sound in the next room has not abated. This irritates me a little. 4 o'clock in the morning. A low male roar came from the next room. The inn fell silent. And at the moment, I am also sleeping. But just as I was about to fall asleep, there was a sudden knock at the door of my room. It's subtle, but it's exceptionally clear. Who doesn't sleep in the middle of the night so much? Knock what knock? I scolded helplessly. It's strange to say. After I finished scolding, the voice disappeared inexplicably. So I tucked my head into the covers and got ready to go to bed again. But a few minutes later, the tapping sounded again. Suddenly, a nameless fire arose. I lifted the quilt and got up and opened the door. When I saw what was happening in front of me, instantly scared me to the ground. I saw it at the door of my room. Master Lu's whole body was just like that. And that particular percussion sound. In fact, it was the sound of the corpse shaking its toes hitting the room. I instinctively shouted, but his throat was blocked and he couldn't shout anything. It was at this time. A person jumped up and down the staircase. I stiffly turned my head to look at it. It was the idiot who was lying on my window when I parked the car. However, after seeing the condition of Master Lu and me, the fool was not afraid. Instead, he clapped his hands and shouted even more excitedly. A woman and a man followed. Ha ha ha, fun and fun. After speaking, he kept circling around Master Lu's body. Then the fool suddenly set his eyes on me, stared at me for a long time. Suddenly, he clapped and shouted excitedly again. You're dying too. Fun and fun. Hear him say that. It was as if my body had been passed through by electricity. The Cold War that was fought directly fainted. When I wake up again, Only then did I find myself lying in the hospital. The nose was filled with the smell of bus sanitizer. I moved a little, but as soon as I wanted to get up, I found a female policeman standing next to me. He was looking at me warily. "Please, officer, why am I in a hospital? You can be discharged from a hospital. Come with me." Then he took out a pair of silver bracelets from his hands. He handcuffed me and pulled me out. I panicked a little when I saw this. What's going on? How can this even use handcuffs? However, my struggles were of no avail. So he dragged me into a police car. At this point, I was already crying. I kept asking myself what had happened. However, the two people in the car did not say a word. So I was forced and frightened and locked up in a hut. And in the harsh light, I felt the words of that fool keep ringing in my ears. He said that the next person to die would be me. Say what? At this point, I was still in a state of urgency. What does that make me say? The middle-aged policeman was visibly furious when he heard me say this. "Don't you know what you're doing?" Then in my puzzled gaze, the policewoman began to speak slowly about my crimes. She said I killed Master Lu. I panicked, began to explain nonstop. Be clear. So I organized the language. I told everything along the way. I didn't dare to hide a word. After listening to my story, the male officer was silent for a moment. A question was raised. After the end of that from Lu Laogue. "How long has it been between when you hear the door banging?" "About 5 minutes or so." Hearing this, the middle-aged policeman stopped talking, just frowning. He looked at the paper in his hand and didn't know what he was thinking. About half an hour passed. The policewoman walked in. Then he whispered something in the ear of the middle-aged policeman. The middle-aged policeman's eyes raised after hearing this, stared straight at me. See this scene. Once again, I had a bad feeling in my heart. "You said the innkeeper you met last night was a woman." That's right. What characteristics does she have?" "Features. Her eyes." "Yeah. Her eyes are a strange color. The whites of the eyes are multifaceted and the eyes are black, only the size of a pinpoint." "Art, the owner of that hostel has always been a man. Where did the white-eyed woman come from?" "You're not stupid when I'm stupid." I was also furious when I heard the middle-aged policeman say this. I felt like my head was going to explode in an instant. "Think about it for yourself. I'll be back in 10 minutes. The middle-aged policeman glanced at me after speaking. "Turn around and go." The policewoman opened her mouth. Looks like he wants to say something. But in the end, it was not spoken. So I'm here to endure. Torture of memories and fears. Although the middle-aged officer, every 10 minutes, will come and ask me once. But my answer is still exactly the same as the first time. Until 2 hours later. The policewoman came in and didn't ask any more questions. Rather, it is a self-respecting opening. "You said that the white-eyed female boss was named Jillian. 47 years old, divorced. She has been running a fourth floor and on the edge of town. It's this person." Hear this sentence from the policewoman. It was as if I had grasped a life-saving straw. "Yeah, it's the female boss." But she said, "Did she kill Master Lu?" However, the policewoman's answer shocked me again. "We did find her, but she was dead when we found her. And he died a year ago." "Oh wait, when pigs fly. I saw her at the hotel last night." She also whispered to me. "Oh, could it be that I encountered a ghost last night?" The policewoman squinted at me. She then pulled a case file from her file bag and placed it in front of me. "The woman you're talking about did die a year ago. At that time, it was because of a fight with passengers. He was stabbed in the eye with a stick. I handled this case." I didn't take what she said to heart at this point. Staring at the dossier, this woman is really the same person I saw last night. Looking at the familiar photos, my heart was beating fast. However, what the policewoman said next made me even more creepy. "The hostel you stayed at last night. The current boss doesn't know you're in charge. Because there were people on the fourth floor. So the entire floor has long been closed to the public. I'm more sure now. The woman I met last night was definitely not human." Then I swallowed and said to the policewoman, "Would you believe me if I said I met a ghost?" The policewoman did not answer, just squinting at me. "I know you don't believe it, but what I said is true. There's no way I'm going to kill her. I made money with her. How could he kill his own god of wealth?" The policewoman should have figured this out at this time. "I'm unfortunate about the ghost you said. Anyway, you're still the first suspect." Hearing this, I nodded blankly. "I know. If nothing else, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison." At this point, I regretted it a little. I regret why I went to take the train crusher. Instead of earning the money, he put himself in prison. I don't know how long it took for the room door to open again. Only this time it was the middle-aged policeman who walked in. He gave me a deep look as he entered. "Please, officer, when are you going to shoot me?" "Shoot you? Why shoot you? The killer has been found. Can you go now?" I didn't hear clearly for a while. The police repeated it again. "The murderer was caught. You're good to go. Your dad is waiting for you outside." The feeling of ups and downs makes me a little dizzy. But suddenly something came to me. "Officer, I would like to ask, who was the real murderer?" The officer ignored my inquiry. He looked up at the door. I followed his gaze in confusion. until the figure at the door gradually became clear. It turned out to be that fool. As I speak, the eyes of the fool were also on me. His originally wooden face. Suddenly, a weird smile arose. A moment of passing by him. He said something to me in a very small voice. He's chosen you. In a trance, I didn't know what I just said. Is it their own auditory hallucinations? After walking out of the police station, Daddy saw me come out and gave me a kick directly. But after he finished fighting, he stuffed me with a baked cake without saying a word. Sitting on his tricycle, my tears kept flowing. I don't know why I'm crying. Maybe it's the aftermath of the catastrophe. Maybe it's the death of this old master who was so good to me. When I got home, Mother has already made a table of dishes. But I don't have an appetite. I ate a few bites and went straight to bed. I had a lot of dreams this night. I dreamed of the old lady in the gray cloth. I dreamed of the eerie silence of Santana. I dreamed of the woman who didn't have the black of her eyes. I dreamed of the scene of Master Lu's body shaking. It woke me up all at once. It was late at night. I was just about to get out of bed when I touched something very soft. Turning his head to look, my heart was lifted in an instant. Because at the head of my bed was the object wrapped in red cloth. Instantly, I couldn't breathe with a huge sense of fear. The hairs on his body stood on end. I can't figure out why this red cloth wrap is at the head of my bed. I pushed open the door and tried to call my parents. But the moment the door opened, it made me see a picture that broke my heart. I saw my father and mother. It was all black blood. I felt only a huge pain, from the heart to the brain. I watched in amazement. In my tears, it's like letting go of the gates. Hoarse voice. It sounded like a demon. If you had known earlier, that's what happens. I don't want to make this trip. Then my eldest brother and second brother. Also extremely sad. I took care of my parents' funerals. Although in the end the police also came. But I still haven't been able to find a single reason. In the end, only with them. Suicide ended hastily. But only I know. It's not that simple. Because at noon my mom. I also made a table. My favorite food. And my eldest brother obviously had something in mind. So on the third day after the death of his parents. So he went to the next village and hired a Mr. Ian Young. But my husband didn't come into my house. Just stood at the door and glanced at it casually. Then he stared at me deadly. What's wrong, sir? Big brother followed his gaze to me. Then asked, who is this? The gentleman pointed at me with a frown. This is my sixth brother. His name is Dakuin. We usually call him Little Seven. And the eldest brother explained. I was looking at him curiously too. But this gentleman is very strange. I can see it clearly. 10 fingers of his right hand were missing. The middle finger of the left hand is missing. But then what he said. But it made my heart slam out. All the strange things in your house are to blame for him. As soon as he said this, he spoke. Not just a few of my older brothers and sisters. Even the people in the village looked at me angrily. Their eyes were like knives. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Mister, isn't there a mistake? Dakuin grew up in the village since he was a child. I haven't done anything wrong. But at this time, Mr. Ian Young frowned. There really wasn't anything wrong with him before. But because of the fate, he brought back some dirty stuff. And when I heard this answer, I suddenly remembered something. Could it have something to do with that red package? And the change in my expression is also seen by the eldest brother. In an instant he understood. Then he cursed. Carrying a shovel is about to shoot me. You brought some dirty stuff back. Hurry up and take it out for Mr. to accept. But the gentleman stopped him. You're very entangled with that thing right now. I can't help you. If you don't want to influence the old folks in the village, I want you to get out of here now. Walk. Let's go. Dakuin. Don't be in the village. This mourning heart will not affect us. The villagers' broken faces and words kept coming, like the last boulder to crush a camel. Then I struggled to move my steps. Walked into the hall. He slammed his head at the photo of his parents. And that red cloth package was also when I went out. It was burned with fire. Turning his head to look at the small courtyard where he had lived for countless years. Then I turned around and walked away without looking back. At this point, I swore in my heart. It doesn't matter if it's a human or a ghost who killed a parent. I'm going to find him. After a man left the village, I was suddenly a little confused. Finally thought about it for a while. I still decided to go to Master Lu's house. Even if Master Lu only took me for one day. But I'm still this middle-aged man who likes to sleep with women. Became my relative. It's weird to say. When I walked to the door of Master Lu's house, it's me who is completely blindfolded. Because there were several police cars parked in front of his house. There were also more than a dozen villagers surrounding the door. I was puzzled and stepped forward to watch. Just that moment, I saw images that I will never forget. On the old neck tree in Master Lu's courtyard, there were 7 people hanging neatly. Without exception, all of them died in the same way as Master Lu and my parents. I just feel like my head is sweating. Because this is obviously the destruction of the whole family. At this point I could feel my toes fighting. I had the audacity to ask the uncle who was watching the excitement on the sidelines. What's going on with these people? I don't know. It should be that Lao Lu's family has offended people. Otherwise, how could it be wiped out? But next, a familiar policewoman, came out of the courtyard and shouted to the crowd, "Which of you tells Takuin to come out?" This sentence is like a thunderbolt. It made me feel the chrysanthemum scene instantly. Turned his head and looked around. I found that no one said that he was Takuin, so I raised my hand boldly. "Are you?" After the policewoman saw that the person who raised her hand was me, there was a noticeable change in his face. She stared at me thoughtfully. "Then come in with me." After I went in, the middle-aged male policeman from before was also there. At this time, he was holding a piece of paper in a silent daze. When I saw Zhang Linger come in with me, his brow furrowed like a policewoman. "Where were you last night?" "I've been at my parents' house." The whole village can testify. I think the middle-aged cop is starting to suspect me again. After I found out, I suddenly understood something. "Please, officer, you won't suspect that I did the death of Master Lu's family." The middle-aged officer didn't speak immediately. Instead, he glanced at the paper in his hand again. Then he looked up at me suspiciously. "Isn't there a time for your home to be here? What are you doing here?" "Master Lu has been my master for a day. I'll see what's wrong with him at one last glance." I tried my best to defend it, but the middle-aged policeman ignored me. He said to me while handcuffing me, "You said it had nothing to do with you. Then I'll show you something." With that, he put the paper in his hand on my face. I saw 14 words written on the paper. "No, Takuin killed my whole family. The truck was given to Takuin." After reading it, I felt like I was falling into ice. "Officer, this is by no means me. I was home yesterday." The middle-aged policeman was also puzzled at this time, since the suicide note said that you killed Lu Laowan's family. But why write a book and give you the truck? Listen to what the middle-aged policeman said. My heart was filled with apprehension. Actually, I really want this van. But on the first day, there were so many things with Master Lu. I'm now filled with an inexplicable fear of the industry. The middle-aged policeman didn't say anything when he saw me. Directly pinned me into a police car. I took a look at the middle-aged policeman as I got into the police car. I saw that his face was slightly pale at this time. Wrinkled. I didn't know what I was thinking. Perhaps what I said about ghosts made him shake slightly. After all, in his cognition, 7 people hanged themselves at the same time. And there was not a single trace of a fight at the scene. This is clearly abnormal. And if it was really me who killed it, how could I tolerate such a note on the spot? But as the only suspect on the scene, he had no choice but to take me first. The vehicle starts. I was taken to that little room in the police station again. However, what I didn't expect was this. There is also a person in this room. It turned out to be the madman I met at the hotel. At this time, he was handcuffed and stood. His long hair obscured his eyes, making it impossible to see his appearance. After a moment of hesitation at the door, I was about to speak. But the madman was the first to speak. "I know you'll come back." I was a little curious to hear this answer. How does he know? Lu Laogui's whole family is gone. I was instantly stunned when I heard this answer. Could it be that Master Lu's whole family was killed by you? The madman Wan Yin raised the chain on his hand. "Do you think I'm capable of killing people now?" I frowned when I saw this. Truly, at this time, he could not get out. Then who will kill Master Lu's whole family? He didn't speak, just quietly looked up and met me. Then his lips slowly opened and he spat out a word. "Ghost." My eyes widened. The body unconsciously flashed back the gun. "What the are you kidding? Ow, haven't you seen a lot of them?" This is the first day I remember with Master Lu. At that time, I saw a lot of weird and strange things. It can be seen that it is not the same thing as the killing of the people around you. Lu Laogui is actually too greedy. Moved something that shouldn't be moved. I also used abilities that I shouldn't have used. So the death of his whole family was completely self-inflicted. The madman suddenly seemed to have discovered something. He turned his head in disbelief and asked, "Wait a minute, what did you just say? Someone close to you died." "Who died?" Hear him ask. I instantly felt an inexplicable sadness rush over me. "My parents died." "Did he die?" "I died. It's been a few days." I told him a quick story. After listening to this, he suddenly felt like he was paralyzed, sitting there non-stop gossip. It shouldn't be. How could they die? It's none of their business. Then he jerked his head up and grabbed my arm. "Lu Laoguan has not shown you that thing." "What a thing?" I asked with a puzzled frown. "A red cloth wrap. There was an embroidered shoe inside. Have you ever seen a red one?" There was an unusually madness in his voice. It made me panic inexplicably. Ceasing. When I got home, it appeared at the head of my bed for some reason. But I didn't open it. His expression was delighted when I said this. "Stuff too. Hurry up and give it to me. I burned things when I left the house." As soon as I finished saying this, the madness on his face froze instantly. "What did you say?" "Go up in flames." After seeing my nod of confirmation, he slapped me in the face. "Who made you burn it? You're going to die. You're really going to die. No way. You can't die right now. You have to get out of here. Go to the east of the city to find a Mr. Yin and Young named Lao Ming." I was already extremely sensitive to this nervous madman. Especially after he finished speaking, I was still in a state of slamming. That's when he grabbed my hand. "It's getting colder. Remember, when you go to find Lao Ming, just said that Lao Lu asked you to find him." After all that said, it was as if he had a spirit, and his spirit disappeared in an instant. Then he watched in silence. There was a silence behind me. I sighed and sat down next to him. I just want to walk now. Can I go? You think I'm alone? Can you get out of the police station? But he didn't seem to care. Just said lightly, soon you'll be out. I just wanted to ask for specifics. Then there was the sound of the door opening. The middle-aged policeman really appeared in front of me. He looked at me with a strange expression. You're good to go. I just wanted to say thank you. The madman whispered quickly in my ear. Don't forget what I told you. Now, immediately go to the old name in the east of the city. After leaving the police station, we crossed the street and walked east. Don't look back. Whoever shouts at you, don't look back. When you walk to a restaurant with a fan hanging in front of your house, he immediately went and knocked on the door. Even if you bleed your head, let him help you, he said firmly. A scene of uneasiness welled up in my heart. It was already 7 o'clock in the evening when I left the police station. As far as the eye can see, the streets are deserted. I walked forward step by step, according to what the madman said. After crossing the street, go straight east. The Kuin. In a trance, I heard someone calling me from behind. The voice is in a trance, and I can't hear it clearly. I didn't bother at first. I thought I might be hallucinating. But until this voice rings in my ears, I realized it was just calling my name. My scalp was numb instantly, and my steps couldn't help but tremble. I found out that the person who called my name was right behind me. The voice is unusually clear. It's my eldest brother's voice. Kuin, where are you going? Why don't you go home? Kuin, you turn your head. My eldest brother's voice was like a repeater. Keep asking in my ear. I'm scared at the moment. But I'm not stupid. I don't believe that Big Brother will appear in this small town in the middle of the night. And if it's really the Big Brother coming, why don't you come up to me? You have to talk behind my back. And so I thought of what the madman said. Don't look back. So I quickened my pace amid the shouts of my eldest brother. They even started running. Listen to the wind whirring in your ears, plus the constant shouting from behind. At this point, I already felt like I was going crazy. I ran for a long time, but I still didn't see a restaurant with a sale on it. Instead, the voice in my ears became my dad's voice. Kuin, what your bunny runs. Then it became my mother's voice. Kuin, your mother, let go. However, I don't know when. Turned out to be Master Lu again. His voice was cold and ethereal. Kuin, don't run. You can't run away. Accept your fate. It's your fate. You were born with this destiny. At this point, I was so scared that I burst into tears. But I still scolded as I ran. I confessed the life of your ancestors for 18 generations. When I finished saying that, the voice behind him disappeared abruptly. But I still wouldn't turn my head, because the cold breath behind me is still there. Ran for another 5 minutes. At this point, I had no strength to run. But I still haven't found a restaurant with a rum mover at the door. Suddenly, a stumble fell to the ground at my feet. I don't want to die. I'm going to have to find what killed my parents. I must take revenge. So I staggered to my feet. At this point, I felt the voice behind me that had just disappeared reappear. But this time, everyone was talking. The sound is very noisy, but I could clearly feel a pair of cold hands straining between my neck. I tried to break it open but found that my neck was empty. Before I knew it, I was having trouble breathing and my eyes were starting to get dazed. Let's go. Die. No matter how hard I struggled, it felt like it didn't help. But at this very moment, the door of a shop not far from me suddenly opened. There was a roar of rage from inside. What the are you calling in the middle of the night? Don't fuck off. Strangely enough, after this roar, the voices in my ears were all gone. Even the pressure and suffocation on my neck disappeared in an instant. In between the confusion, I saw a tall figure walk out of the shop and stand in front of me. I subconsciously reached out and grabbed his trouser leg. Help me, please save me. But the visitor didn't answer me immediately. He stood before me and did not speak. Then I felt a fainting sensation and fainted. When I woke up the next day, I felt a thirst inexplicably. It is accompanied by an itching in the neck. I turned my head and found a jar of tea next to the bed. I didn't care about anything else, so I just took it and drank it all. Just as I was about to scratch my neck. If you want to die, you can scratch it. I turned my head to look. I saw a tall, middle-aged man looking at me with a small bottle. Uncle, you saved me. I didn't get a reply to that. You're pretty damn off. If you can get out of bed, roll over. When Yin rolled over and got out of bed and came to his side, I saw him grab a touch from the small bottle. Something similar to incense ash. Rub it on my neck. I'm the best at this thing. The average person has at least 20,000 oceans. But I don't charge you money because I see that you are a good actor. What the hell is the craft? Ow. Forget about last night. If I hadn't done it, you were strangled to death by those things last night. It was then that I remembered in a trance what had happened last night. I felt scared in my heart. Lose. I'm going to find Changdong, a Mr. Enan Young named Lao Ming. You know which one he's in. What are you looking for him? Only he can save my life. You heard me say that. The middle-aged gentleman in front of him suddenly laughed. Save your life. If only it were last night's stuff. Any expert who knows how to count can save you. Why do you have to look for him? I also shook my head and didn't know what to say. But my friend named me to find Lao Ming. Lao Lu asked me to come. Lao Lu, the middle-aged man who had just smiled when he heard this, suddenly stopped me. What is your name? My name is Akuan. Xiao Ming's name is Xiaoqi. You are Xiaoqi. When I heard my Xiao Ming, the middle-aged man became shocked. Even his pitch rose a bit. Then he looked at me incredulously. Suddenly, he took my hand again and quickly lifted the sleeve of his shirt. I saw it on my arm. There was a black thread that kept wriggling. You're really a little strange. Why has your personality changed? I stared wide-eyed at the black line on my hand. I felt like I was shaking all over. At this time, the middle-aged man looked at me with a serious face. Lao Ming, you tell me everything from start to finish. I was suddenly in a bit of a trance. It turns out that the person who saved me last night was the person I was looking for. So I hurried to do all kinds of weirdness that I encountered as a truck driver. In addition, Master Lu's death and the death of my parents were all talked about. But when I said that I burned the red cloth wrap, the expression of the old man in front of him also froze. Become exactly like that madman. What did you burn that red cloth wrap? Aren't ghosts all afraid of fire? Hearing me say this, Lao Ming glared at me. It wasn't any ordinary thing at all. Lu Lao Gue and the death of his entire family. It's because he touched that thing without permission. So there's nothing to say. But it's your blessing that thing chose you. But if you burn it, it will become a fire. You burned his stuff. Now he's going to pay back your life. Even everyone you know is going to die. After saying this, Lao Ming sighed deeply. Immediately, he seemed to have made up his mind. Damn, I fought it. Then Lao Ming stuffed a box into my hand. You're staying at my house now. Remember, you can't get out of this door even a single step. I'm going to your house now. If I'm right, your loved ones are now afraid. But you don't have to worry. I will definitely be back before sunset. If I don't make it back before sunset, you just hold this thing and hide it under the covers. Remember, no matter who shouts at you, don't come out. I nodded sheepishly. Lao Ming let out a long sigh. Take out a package from the back room. I went out without looking back. The air suddenly became quiet. I glanced at the bottle in my hand, curious about what's inside. But this curiosity is only for a moment. To prevent overthinking, I opened the window. Look at the bustling crowd on the street. That's when I found out. I'm in a restaurant. But I always felt that something was wrong. After thinking about it for a long time, I suddenly realized. The madman made me walk to a door. A restaurant with a sale. But the hotel didn't hang any sales. My heart skips a beat at the thought of this. I took a closer look at the entrance of the hotel again. I can watch it more than a dozen times. I'm sure there's really nothing hanging here. Before I knew it, I was sweating a lot down my spine. It's hard to do it. I can't imagine the consequences. At this moment, an inexplicable sense of fear swept through the whole body. I don't know whether to trust the guy or not. Just when I was still struggling, the sky outside the window had become drowsy. Exercise. It gets dark so fast. I let out a low curse. But just said that. There were two strange knocks at the door. The voice was muffled but somewhat floating. This instantly lifted my already nervous heart again. I stared at the door with wide eyes. I grew up listening to the old people in the village. Normal people will knock on the door rhythmically 3 times. Exceptionally too short. Knock knock. Only the ghost knocking on the door is without any rhythm. And the ghost knocked on the door only with a sound twice. It's okay not to want to. When I think about it, I feel like my head is budding. The footsteps were a little shaky. The northeasterly wind began to blow. During this time, I gently closed the window, and then just stood there stupidly, until after a long wait, the room was quiet again. I just wanted to touch the cloth, only to find that the knock on the door, which had disappeared, sounded again. Knock knock is still adult 2 sounds. I quickly rolled onto the bed, holding the quilt to cover the body. Only one head is missing. I just stared at the door. The atmosphere didn't dare to gasp, but it was as if it could feel me watching it. The sound stopped again. 5 minutes later, it sounded again. Knock knock. It's just that this time the sound is different from the previous one. Just when I was confused, suddenly, I saw a blurry figure outside the window. Turning my head to look at me, I was terrified. Then hide the whole body in the quilt. Cover your mouth and don't dare to pant hard, because it's right there at the window. A man with bloodied eyes. The face is pressed against the window. I could clearly see him smiling at me. The corners of his mouth almost reached the base of his ears. A pair of hands kept knocking on the window. At this moment, sitting under the covers, I clutched the bottle tightly. It was as if he could give me enough security. The knock on the window was still ringing twice. I could even hear a shrill laugh. It keeps ringing in my ears. It caused me to suffer both physically and mentally. I closed my eyes tightly. Lao Ming's words kept ringing in my head. You just hold this thing and hide it under the covers. No matter who shouts at you, don't come out. That's what I did. But the body couldn't bear the constant trembling. From time to time, I worry that my hands and feet will be exposed outside the quilt. It was the sound of the door of the room being opened. But the voice was to me at this time. But it's extremely harsh. I couldn't see the outside world when I was hiding under the covers. I could only close my breath and listen to the movement outside with my ears. After the door opened, instantly, there was the sound of footsteps with some voices. That's right, it's sound. Because what I hear is not a thing. It's a group, and I feel those things. Standing by the bed at the moment. Look at me with a look at food. It brought me to the brink of collapse. But there was no next move for that group. It can be seen that Lao Ming asked me to hide in the bed. It's still useful, but the idea just came to me. Bursts of nonsense came to my ears again. It's like you're talking in my ear. The Kuan was gone. We've been waiting for you for a long time. The Kuan, the Kuan, the Kuan. No matter how hard I pressed my ears, I could hear it. It gave me a kind of life. Inexplicable grievances and anger. I couldn't bear it anymore, and I shouted loudly under the covers. Whoever fucks kills you. Go to whomever you want. Don't fuck off. As soon as I finished speaking, the room fell silent for a moment. It's as if everything is half gone. But I didn't come out the first time. I don't know how long it took. I heard footsteps in the room again. Then Lao Ming's tired voice sounded. It's okay, Kuan. Come out. I've taken care of everything for you. Hear the voice. I was so happy that I was about to cry. Then I lifted the quilt directly. But after lifting, the scene in front of me made me momentarily frightened and motionless. I didn't dare to turn my head at all. I don't even have the strength to turn my head at the moment. I only felt as if there was a piercing hand behind me, stroking me, slipped from my waist all the way to my neck. I couldn't help but shudder. Just when I felt like I had no life to rest, the bottle in my arms suddenly emitted a faint glow. The light seemed to bring everything to a halt for a moment. It made me suddenly relaxed. So at this time, I couldn't get up at all, and he got out of bed quickly. I was crazy enough to push away the crowd around me. Strode straight out of the door. But when I got out of the room, I didn't know where to go. I just want to run. The farther you run, the better. On the street, I couldn't hold back the feeling in my heart any longer. Shout like a madman. I hope someone wakes me up. But strangely, no one was woken up by me. And that's not all. Dim streetlights on the side of the road. Suddenly it started to flicker and flicker. It scared my heart. Everything makes me feel I can't run away anymore. It's just at this time, Lao Ming suddenly appeared in front of me. It turned out to be Lao Ming. I suddenly felt it seems to have grasped the last straw. Instantly ran in front of him and knelt down and cried, Master Ming, help me. Yes, there are ghosts. Save you. Okay. I heard Lao Ming's voice. I felt like heaven. I was about to look up and say thank you. However, after I finished speaking, old Master Ming stared down at me with a strange expression. Then the corners of his mouth suddenly hooked up directly. It turned out to be exactly the same as Master Lu's smile. Do your eyes. I trembled and pointed to Master Ming's eyes and said, what's wrong with my eyes? However, Master Ming grabbed my hand. Then it turned into eagerness. And then there's madness. You say, what's wrong with my eyes? Say it. Say it. Say it. Master Ming, what are you doing? I'm going to take you away. You don't want me to save you. Come with me. At this moment, he turned around my back. I noticed that the bunch was behind me again. But my parents were missing. At this time, the old master who grabbed me was even bigger. He said to me with a smile, don't run. You can't run away. What the hell are you going to do, Master Ming? I'm already a little loud by now. Take you away, of course. After saying that, he dragged me and began to walk towards the small alley on the side of the road. My feet were a little messy at this point. I don't feel a little strength in my whole body. It was completely carried by them. I grabbed my throat and started shouting. Is there any living person in Tima? The living of Tima are to be taken away by the dead. But there was no joke in my words. Except for the things around me who were laughing. There was no sound reply. My experience in the past few days at this time. It started to float in front of my eyes like a slide. Is this what it's like to die? It's dark in the small alley, and you can't see your fingers. Nothing can be seen. Feeling the suffocation of my neck sock, I'm already desperate. At this moment, in the darkness where you can't see your fingers, suddenly, a strange and sharp red light appeared. It's like a sharp sword light. It made my eyes shine. It made me wake up instantly. And at this moment, the body also loses its center of gravity, sitting directly on the ground. At the same time, the old master is a famous master. All that filth is gone. I don't know what's going on. Rightly stood up. I looked at it in a panic. I saw it on the other side of the alley. There was one wearing a red old-fashioned shungsam, barefoot woman, gazing at me deeply. Only after I wiped her eyes, the figure was gone. At this time, a nearby household, the lights were turned on as well. A deep voice scolded angrily. I was awakened by this roar and reacted instantly. Immediately ran towards the alley. But when I arrived, I found out the place was empty, except for a touch of bewitching red begonia flowers that are falling. Nothing else. Begonia flowers, I exclaimed as I reached out and took the flower. You must know that this is in the cold winter wax moon. The begonia blooms in spring. But in the end I was saved. And it was a mysterious woman who saved me. Tighten the clothes on your body. I opened my legs and began to walk aimlessly forward. In desperation, I finally came to Master Ming's house. I couldn't sleep in bed, because I don't understand that madman. Let me come to Master Ming. But in the end, Lao Ming also wanted me to die. I have to find a madman to ask what the hell is going on. Sleepless nights. 4 o'clock in the morning. I got up and walked out of the room. Walked in the direction of the police station. On the way, he met 3 drunks. Stumbling and staggering. One of them was drunk, hazy-eyed, wiped his eyes and looked at me. Then he said to the person next to him with a smile, "Look at the young man beside him. That calf is in good shape." After the other 2 people heard it, all towards me, but they watched for a long time. Said disapprovingly to the man, "You've drunk too much. What kind of girl is there? She wasn't alone." "No, can't you see? It's the woman in the air robe. Come on, there are no women. You think women want to go crazy. Hurry home." I heard them mumble. Then it faded into front of my eyes. I suddenly felt as if I felt something. Woman in an air robe. Could it be the one who saved me? So I stopped, knelt down directly on the road. Straight kowtowed 3 small heads. "I know you saved me. Although I don't know. I can't see you by what your name is. But my parents taught me from a young age. Kowtow to your benefactor. Now I'm kowtowing to you. If you want something, come and tell me in my dreams at night. I'll do it." Just after I said that, I didn't actually hear anything, but it was as if the northeast wind was howling. Inexplicably, a good voice came. Standing up, keep out in all directions, east, west, north, and south. Then I walked straight to the police station. When I got to the place, it was already 7 o'clock in the morning. I learned that the middle-aged policeman had not yet come. Luckily, I was sitting on the steps in front of the police station. I waited for about an hour. The first thing I saw was the one named Jiang Ninger arrive at the police station on a motorcycle. She looked unusually handsome in a helmet. In the moment they saw me, she took off her helmet. Confused, she shouted at me, "Why are you here?" After thinking about it for a moment, I stood up. "I want to see that crazy young man." But she said calmly, "I don't see it anymore. Now that young man, he has been taken to a detention center." I nodded lonely. But Jiang Linger changed her words. "You didn't go back to the village last night. Don't you know about things in the village?" I don't understand what she meant by that. "I didn't go back. What's going on in the village?" Jiang Linger glanced at me thoughtfully. Then he spoke word by word. "Your eldest brother and second brother's family. All dead, you don't know. Hear this." My whole body was instantly overwhelmed. Why is this happening? I finished tremblingly. Then I got ready to go home. But at this moment, Jiang Linger. But they stopped me. She thought for a long time and said faithfully, "I don't think you should go back." "Because of what?" I asked eagerly. "Because now the people of the village, they all think of you as a curse. You go back now." Jiang Linger stopped halfway through speaking. The look in her eyes told me, "If I go back now, there will be a fear for your life." Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel sad. Obviously, I escaped last night from my own game, but now I'm here. I can't even go home. I almost hated it at the moment. Truck driver industry. I don't understand why. My father wanted me to do it. What's the use of making a lot of money? Eventually, I lost all my kinship. I couldn't control it anymore. Howling and crying. Jiang Linger probably thought that I would cry, but I didn't expect me to cry so sadly. He comforted me at a loss. "Oh, don't cry yet. That's right, the young man seems to have left you something." In Chenli. Then he took me to the police station. Followed Jiang Linger's side, sniffing the occasional burst of body fragrance from his body. I felt like my face was burning up. To be honest, Jiang Linger is a very beautiful person, but at the moment I can only look up. What happened to you? Now if you don't cry, why is your face so red? I hurriedly lowered my head, and my voice was as thin as silver. "No, it's okay. I am now well aware of my situation." So I still pressed the throbbing that had just risen in my heart to my heart. I waited in the reception room for half an hour. The middle-aged police officer who was called Chinli by Jiang Linger came. I saw him holding a large box in his hand. "Well, that's what the young man left for you." I took the box and opened the lid. I saw an iron-covered lighter inside. There is also a book. I had no choice but to sit on the side of the road, holding the lighter in the box and fiddling with it in his hand. Now I don't know where I'm going. Just then, a hand suddenly slapped me on the shoulder. It took a whim. There is a head to look at, only to find out that the person who came later turned out to be the Mr. Ian and Yang invited by the eldest brother before. When I saw him, I was instantly alert. "Is you? Not seen for many days. I didn't expect you to be alive and well." He smiled and sat down directly next to me. "Ow, isn't it hard to believe that I'm still alive? It's unbelievable indeed." I wondered why he would let me go. "Who is he?" I frowned in confusion. Mr. Wenyin, Mr. Ian Yang, was stunned. Then he burst out laughing. "You didn't know anything and survived. It's really interesting." I ignored him and took out a cigarette I had just bought and lit it. "I know if it's not this person, I won't be kicked out of the village by my eldest brother." Mr. Ian Yang didn't say anything when he saw this. He introduced himself with a smile. "My name is Jiang Ming, and everyone else calls me Lao Ming. I don't know if you'd like to come with me." At this time, I was stunned. I was about to speak. Voices were heard again in the distance. I turned my head to look and found that it was Zheng Linger coming. Chorus. Lu Laogui's truck, you can sign for it. This van is yours after you sign it. Actually, I didn't want this truck at first, because he's a scourge to me. But in the end, it still couldn't withstand Zheng Linger's labor. Finally, he handed me the keys to the big truck, walked to the parking lot next to the police station. I looked at the white van and fell into deep thought. Inexplicably, I didn't know what to do next. I'm supposed to continue working as a truck driver, or never touch the truck again. That's when it happened. That Mr. Enan Yang called Lao Ming. He came running over again and said to me with a smile, "Congratulations. This big truck is yours." I glanced at him. Only then did he realize it. "Your name is Lao Ming. That's right. Do you own a restaurant in the east of the city? And there is a rice hanging at the door." But you know, Wen Yin, I finally understood. That madman asked me to find this person the day before yesterday. Then who was the old man I met the night before yesterday, who also ran a restaurant? When I think about this, I suddenly feel a shiver. Then I dragged out the whole matter of Xiao Qi and another old Ming. He frowned at first. Then it was as if I understood something in an instant. Said to me with a smile, "I guess I get it. So what exactly is the situation?" I hurriedly grabbed his hand and asked eagerly, "No hurry, no hurry. You can drive with me in the van first. When you get to my house, listen to me tell you slowly." Drove over. 10 minutes by car, I came to Master Lu's shop. Same as the madman told me. A restaurant indeed. There is also a sale hanging in front of the hotel. Walking into the hotel, I was the first to come over. It's a fat man my age. I saw him say directly to Master Ming, "Dad, you're back." Master Lao Ming nodded and snorted lightly. Then he greeted me and walked into a private room. "Have a seat." In the room, Master Ming pointed to the stool and said to me, "Can you tell me what the hell is going on? Who killed Master Lu's family and my parents, eldest brother and second brother? Is it the red package? Is he going to kill me too? Who was that old man I met the day before yesterday? Why he said he was you? And also, Master Lu, why do they keep wanting me to die? I didn't do anything and just said all my doubts." Just stupidly waited for Master Ming's answer. "Let's go back to your first question first. It wasn't the red cloth package that killed them. I don't really know what it is. And that's what I've been looking for these days. At first, I thought it was him, but it turned out that it wasn't. As for whether that red cloth package will kill you." Speaking of which, Lao Ming glanced up at me. "If I want to kill you, you won't survive last night. Maybe he can't tell you what you need. There is a demand." "What the demand? How do I know this?" "His needs depend on whether he tells you or not." Master Lao Ming collapsed his hand and sat speechlessly. I was frowning and my head was screaming. "As for the old man you saw the day before yesterday, no, I don't know where the second-rate son will order spells. A bottle covered with half a bottle of light. Unexpectedly, he ended up killing himself. Then I suddenly remembered a bottle he gave me that night. So he hurriedly said to Master Lao Ming, 'This bottle may be some kind of magic artifact. Can you keep it for yourself?' And wanted to kill me. I've never offended them. Asked again. That's why I'm calling you here today. Because your destiny was born in British and British history. So in the end, you must not be good at it. Unless Master Ming looks at me. But I was in a hurry. 'Master Ming, you just said that half of it was left in half. You just say it.' In the end, Master Ming often sighed. Unless you can become a well-known pig ghost before the age of 40, maybe you can change your hits a little. I was already shooting at the top of my body. What a pig ghost man. You're not kidding. I was almost killed by a ghost last night. How do you do this, pig ghost man? And let me be a well-known pig ghost man. Do you think I'm joking? And don't you want to find out the cause of your parents' deaths? I can tell you responsibly. Killed Lu Laogui's entire family and your parents. Definitely hold up the evil bones. I don't know how much better than what you encountered last night. Don't you want to avenge your parents?" I shuddered. But what should I do? Lao Ming kept pointing to the black box and said, "The book and the lighter that Xiao Qi left for you. It's the important thing for you to become a pig ghost person. To be honest, Xiao Qi is not thin on you." I haven't reacted yet. Lao Ming shouted out the door. "Correct solution. Hurry on in." The door opened, and Master Ming's son showed ahead. "Dad, you call me. You henceforth. You're running a big truck with this little brother named Tong Ming." "Okay." The fat man nodded. Then he walked in and held out his hand to me. "Hello, my name is Sister Zhang." I didn't react for a moment. As soon as I stretched out my hand, it was as if I'd woken up. I didn't say that I would continue to run the big truck. When did I say I ran a big truck? You don't have a choice. If you want to become a well-known pig ghost man, you have to be this truck driver. This is the fastest way for you. You have to run around the country. And the key is to run a big truck, and he also makes money. But I just wanted to speak. I'd like to say that I smack my legs when I see that now. However, when I met the eyes of the old master in a trance, but I suddenly calmed down. Eventually, I nodded helplessly. So this confused conversation and inexplicable shadows. It became a prelude to my long run. This was the beginning of my truck career. For the rest of the year, I stayed at Lao Ming's house. Speaking from after the death of my parents, Master Ming was actually the best person for me during that time. Not only did he give me everything he had learned, and Lao Ming's son almost ate and slept with me during this time, I also had a great time chatting with this cute fat man. This period of time has almost brought my life back to positive fruition. I've never encountered any ghosts or anything weird again. If I had to say that there was one thing, that's pretty much in my dreams. A woman wearing a red cheongsam will appear. I couldn't see her face clearly. I could only tell me that she was looking at me angrily. When you're bored, I'll read the book that the mad young man left me. I don't understand it very much, but Master Lao Ming told. This nameless book is the real thing. Just near the end of the year, listening to the fat man, it seems that the madman has been shot. I felt a sigh of relief, but unfortunately I don't have the power to change anything. I thought it would be nice if my life went on like this. But on the night of the first 3 days of the Chinese New Year's Eve, the streets are unusually lively. Outside the window was the roar of people and the sound of bursting firecrackers. Master Ming suddenly called me and the fat man into the room, and the old master turned off all the lights in the room. Only one candle was lit. The three of us worked together in a dim candlelight. After a moment of silence, Master Ming smoked 3 cigarettes. Only then did he place a package on the table. After his gaze slowly swept over me and the fat man, I've had all my savings over the years. The total is $30,700. Then Master Lao Ming took out a real estate certificate, put it on the table and said, Chung Ran, this old house has been with me for 20 years. Serious. After the new year, you will sell it. When Yen asked with wide eyes and incredulity, Father, are you going to die? Old Ming ignored it and turned his head to look at me. Ulu, I found you a job in your van. This time it was from Hunan to Harbin. In the 3rd year of junior high school, someone will come to you. When Yen didn't speak, frowning, I always feel that Master Ming is like explaining the aftermath. The fat man was even more anxious. He asked nervously as he stood up, Dad, what the hell happened? Lao Ming waved his hand and said to him with a smile, It's okay. Dad has to go out to deal with some things. After the year, you can just follow Shalu to run the truck. I'm going fast for 3 months. If it's slow, it's a year and a half. When the time comes, our father and son will meet again. Lao Ming said this to the fat man and turned his head to me again. Little Lu, your life personality is special. I want to help you but can't. At the end of the day, it's up to you to change. After 2 long silences, I nodded. There was silence for a moment. This is with the lively sound of fireworks outside. A strong contrast is formed. As we finished our cigarettes, old Master Ming carried a snakeskin bag on his shoulder. He took one last look at us after heading out, then step on the snow on the ground, make a creaking sound, and the fat man and I just watched the back of Master Ming go away. The fat man was not shouting. He just silently looked at the back of old Master Ming. He pursed his lips and was silent. I patted him on the shoulder at this point to comfort him. Maybe Master Ming will come back in a few days. The fat man, however, shook his head firmly. I know. The fat man and I were bored at home until the 30th of the Chinese New Year's Eve, thinking of the recent parting of life and death, and the fact that I want to be a ghost hunter. I lay in bed and sighed a lot. The fat man suddenly raised his head and said with a smile, Shalu looks at what he is angry. It's nothing. I just lamented that my fate was too much. The fat man pondered for a moment. He put down the book and walked in front of me. I've heard a little about your fate. Ah, I told you. Well, my father said you had a special personality, almost a millennium rarity. But he also said that although your fate has a great charm, in ancient times, it should also be the supreme charm of the Wind King's defeat. But the strange thing is that in the middle of this superb charm, but there are wisps of gray-black aura that keeps entwining. It cannot be eliminated and cannot be withdrawn, thus forming the present one. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Even my dad can't figure out your fate, whether it's good or bad. Because in history, people with great rhyme are people with great personalities. At the extreme, there is only excellent or very poor. Someone like you who is very good at intercepting with extreme difference. No, not a single one. Is my personality really so special? I didn't figure it out after thinking about it for a long time. Luckily, I took a cigarette out of my pocket and lit it. Never mind. Tell him to bounce a ball. People are dead. The fat man smiled and was just about to speak. There was a sudden knock at the door. The sound is crisp. There was only one bang. At first, the fat man and I didn't care. But after a while, there was another knock at the door. Boom. This one was louder than the first time. The fat man frowned and raised his head and shouted, Who is it? There was no sound outside the room. Then the fat man and I looked at each other. I couldn't help but start breathing. The fat man frowned and got up and opened the door. But there was no one at the door. Firecrackers and fireworks still roared in the distance. At this moment, the fat man seemed to see something incredibly shocking. Shalu, come out quickly. You see what it is. Hearing the fat man shouting like this, I walked out directly. Look in the direction the fat man is pointing. Just look at it. My heart seemed to pause for a moment, for I saw right in front of our door. There was a dead cat covered in blood, and the dead cat's eyes widened. Just looked at me and the fat man in a daze. Damn, which grandson Chinese New Year's Eve put a dead cat in front of my house? What a loss of conscience. The fat man scolded, but he still found a pit while scolding and bought the dead cat. At first, we both thought it might be a prank done by someone. But strangely, on the night of the first day of the new year, there were 2 rings at the door. Opened the door and the fat man and I saw it. But it was a dead snake. You must know that it is a cold winter month. Snakes are mostly hibernating. Who plays a prank in the winter put a dead snake at the door of the house. At this time, it was not only the fat man's face that was unusually ugly. Even I felt a faint uneasiness in my heart. That night, the fat man and I were lying in the same bed. The fat man is also constantly turning over. We basically couldn't sleep. Suddenly the fat man sat up. This scared the hell out of me. I said dissatisfied, "Why are you surprised? Little Lou, you don't realize it. This dead cat and dead snake came very suddenly. If someone continues to put it tomorrow, what to do you can't. So what's the solution? Or we'll be waiting at the door tomorrow. As soon as the door rings, we will go out. I'm going to find out what this person is like." After listening to the fat man's proposal, I tugged at the quilt. Nervously asked, "What if there is no one?" "Oh, that's the ghost." Speaking of which, the corners of the fat man's mouth seemed to curl up in the night. A faint smile was revealed. "Hee, if it's a ghost playing with me." Uncle Ben asked him to see how many eyes Ma Wang Yitima had. Damn, I really thought that my father and I were soft persimmon for 20 years. Actually, that's a good point. Before, the fat man followed his father to learn Taoism since he was a child. He had already learned his father's trade, if not 80%, but 60%. I'm not scared when I think about it. Lit a cigarette again. It's also strange to say. I used to cough when I smelled smoke, but for the last month or 2, I seem to have 1 pack a day. Say a word, little Lou. The fat man slapped me. Yes, then I'll listen to you. I nodded in reply. The fat man sighed and lay down again. Little sis. Anyway, you've been reading that book for a month. What did you learn? I took a deep puff of my cigarette and sighed. I haven't understood it yet, but I seem to understand a little bit as well. Is it little 6? I wonder if there's any Taoism written in that book. The fat man turned around at this time, blinking his eyes and asking curiously. I shook my head. That's some kind of please. I shook my head again. Neither is it. It's not the Tao. It's not the law of the gods. What is that? Captives are still ritual weapons. The fat man seemed interested, but it's hard for me to put it in succinct words. After thinking about it for a long time, I spit out 2 words. Encounter ghosts. What the hell? The fat man's eyes widened, and he asked again. I thought about it for a long time and nodded firmly. That's supposed to be a ghost encounter. But what I don't understand is, the book says that you need some kind of medium to meet ghosts. But I never found out what that medium was. Wenyan the fat man scratched his ears and thought about it for a long time. I don't understand. I guess it's some kind of crookedness. I don't think it's as good as my dad. You know how many Fulu bones my dad left me? More than 1,000. There's all this stuff in there. Don't be afraid. What kind of demons and monsters? I will go up directly to him. Fat man though sometimes bragging. But what he said filled my heart. It seems like it's been a long time since anyone said to me don't be afraid. It's a wave of sleepiness. I couldn't resist anymore. With a slight hum, he fell asleep in a daze. In this dream, I saw the woman in the red robe again. He looked at me blankly as usual. I'm not scared now. Straight to her feet and lay down casually. And I know it. This air-robed woman is the same woman who saved me before. So it's the opposite. I also seem to have a sense of belonging to her. Just when I wanted to sleep at her feet like I had been for a month. Suddenly, she spoke, who had remained silent in her dreams.